could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Look, could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.
So yes, today it returns. The Introducing series is back, and today we're going to start with Team Liquid. Now, I'm not going to reintroduce the teams that I've already done videos for, because not that much has changed for teams like Fnatic and Paper Rex, right? They played in Copenhagen, and then they haven't played since, so we aren't going to focus on those teams. We're only going to do the teams that I haven't done a video about before, and today we're going to start with Team Liquid, who, of course, from EMEA and were the EMEA LCQ winner. Their Masters 1 and 2 performance, well, they did qualify kind of technically for Masters 1 because, of course, FPX couldn't go, and so they ended up going to Masters 1, but they were not present at Masters Copenhagen, of course. Their expectation is, well, I've put it as a dark horse, you know, not as a joke that obviously Team Liquid's logo is a dark horse, but more as a kind of, I do think that they have a small chance of winning the whole tournament, right? Like, you know, in that kind of like 5% range, I do think that Liquid, you know, have a chance to actually win it all. I don't think they would be favorites or anything like that, but I do think that they have a chance. Their style is cracked demons. I think their gunplay is, you know, probably up there with the best in the world. I think if the game was just no abilities, right, and was just a pure like deathmatch, I think that, you know, Liquid and maybe like Loud would probably be the best two teams in the world. You know, maybe Paper Rex would be up there as well. Because, yeah, they're just insanely cracked, right? They're just insanely good. Every single player on their team is just insanely good at aiming. And, you know, when they're on, as I've put at the bottom, you know, when they're feeling it, you're probably going to lose. I think that this is why Liquid would be a bit of a dark horse, because I think that they're, you know, the very best version of Liquid is good enough to compete with the very best version of, you know, Optic, Fnatic, Paper Rex, right? FPX, you know, like they are on that level if they play at their very best. The only problem for them is I think that their average performance and perhaps their, you know, worst performance is a bit lower than all of those teams, and that's why they're not considered a favorite, because perhaps they're just a bit, you know, more inconsistent than those other teams I just mentioned. In terms of the actual players, I'm sure, you know, many of you will be familiar with Scream, who is IGLing now for the team, obviously playing a lot of duelists. These are the agents that they played in LCQ. We have Soulcast, of course, who's playing a lot of Fade Sky with a bit of Astron Fracture. Navera, obviously Scream's brother, who's their main sort of Viper player. He might play Cypher as well, depending on, you know, how the chamber nerfs shake out. But the big change was really Yampy here, going to a full-time chamber in LCQ. We'll have to see if, you know, that continues in champs here, because obviously the chamber nerfs will be live, so we'll see if that stays around or not, but that will definitely be an interesting point. And then obviously Dima, the new player to this roster, replacing Link, has been playing a lot of controller roles and also some Sova and Sage, as you can see. And Emil, of course, is the new coach, the twin brother of the FPX coach Doombros, so, you know, obviously, he's had his kind of effect. I think one of the big changes that was made was Yampy moving, you know, full-time to that chamber. In terms of the stats, you know, obviously the EMEA LCQ was pretty competitive, so there isn't too many, like, dominant stats. You can see that Yampy and Scream were having pretty good tournaments overall, and, you know, the other three players were definitely holding their own in their support roles as well. And when it comes to looking at how Liquid like to play, let's take a look at a map that they are pretty familiar with, and that is Icebox. They are on the defensive side this time, and this is actually the first pistol round. And this is going to be a bit of the bad side of Liquid, I would say, overall, where perhaps they get, you know, a little caught up in what's going on. They get perhaps a little overconfident, because it starts with this interesting idea with the boombot you see there going the other side, that Redgar is perhaps gets a bit caught up with, and so then they go for this push down B. They're actually going as a 3-stack, as you can see here. They catch off Redgar and they get the first kill. And also Soulcast here manages to get a kill in mid on Chronicle as well, and so they end up in a 5v3. Now, this is all fine, right? What they're doing here, they obviously have a pretty good idea. These players are going to be towards A, right? They're clearing through mid. They can see no one's in spawn, so they have a pretty good idea these players are probably towards this A site. And so this is absolutely fine, right? They have kind of them penned in, right? Like there's nowhere for them to go. They know exactly where they are. But the thing is, they are going to get caught off guard. Now, there is a nice idea here by Mech that they, put someone on the wall, but I'm pretty sure maybe Dima saw him because he did ping after that, that little brief stint with the KO. But you're going to see they just get a bit caught out here. And even though this is a 5v3, they're going to lose this without killing a single player, right? And I think they're going to get caught off here by Shados, who's going to push them deep towards the stairs. And you see that Soulcast has utility out, and so they get caught off by Shadows there. We end up in a 3v3, but then, we've got Navera, and they end up chasing this kill, but now he's just completely isolated on his own, so JD comes around from the other side. They get that kill as well. Scream is like a bit behind what the rest of his teammates are doing. Yampy now is trying to make amends on Shados, but Shados kills him as well. And you see that we ended up in a 5v3, and it looked, they knew exactly where they were. They had them penned in, right? But just that kind of getting caught off guard a bit. It is the first round, so maybe you can give them a bit of leeway for that, but I think that sometimes, it can be a bit, loose. I think that that's the thing that, you associate with when Liquid are playing bad. It's like a bit loose. It doesn't seem a bit, it doesn't feel structured in any way. And it feels like, they just kind of end up making questionable decisions sometimes and end up in weird spots. But now let's come to round 10, because whilst it can be a bit loose, sometimes it can pay off for them, and this is kind of, the flip side of Liquid, right? That they can very much be a team that, yes, will maybe lose, a 5v3 a bit more than maybe other teams do, but also they'll win situations that they just shouldn't be able to win, but they win them with quite a bit of regularity. And we're going to see another one right here as Mech are going to come towards this A site, as you can see. But Yampy there, you might have just seen, is coming round on the flank here from this B site, and he eventually will come all the way through the back of Mech here, who start their AXQ. They start to come in, and Scream actually can't get away there on the raise as he's trying to op there. And so, Mech start coming into the site. They get the next kill on Navera as well from Nats. And, these players are just in a lot of trouble. But Yampy is coming from behind, right? Soulcast does manage to get one there, but now up goes the wall. They try and start to get the spike down Mech here. And they do get the spike down as JD plants there. But now no one is aware of Yampy, who manages to get one. He gets two. Shados actually does manage to find Dima. We end up in a 2v2. And, well, Shados pops out there at, like, the worst time possible. But JD comes and trades the kill. And actually he has a res up now. And he goes and gets it. But this is Yampy. And this clip was actually at the start of the little a thing that I did at the start for a little highlight clip, and Yampy manages to win it. But this kind of thing just happens so often for Team Liquid that you just think, like, they're just special at it. They just, like, people getting 4Ks or whatever happens so often for Liquid, and they win so many rounds by doing it, so much more than, like, other teams. It is insane, like, the player level that they have, that, pretty much anyone on their team can do this, but particularly Scream and Yampy are exceptional in these situations. And perhaps another thing Liquid are known for is, some of their weirder comps. They don't mind trying weird things. That's kind of been a Liquid highlight. And on Icebox, they do play, I'm not going to say a bad comp. I think it's a very good comp, actually. But, it is a bit weird. You don't see too many teams running the raise fade on Icebox, although it is very meta on a lot of other maps. But I do actually think that it is very good on Icebox as well. And we're going to see here in round 16 that they get rewarded for, playing something perhaps a bit weirder, perhaps, something that people haven't really seen before. Because as we'll see, they do start to come towards this A site, but eventually we are going to head back towards B here for the side of Team Liquid, as we see Mech, think that they're about to come out towards A, but you see that they start pinging this rather weird wall, and they are going to do a wall, to take a bit more space on this B site. They're going to go for something a bit more aggressive, and so after, they start to come down here, Chronicle is just going to miss that shot, and you see in Scream's reaction, he takes a breath out as he as he realizes how close he was there to death, but you're going to see that he is going to take advantage here of of playing the Rays, right? Of playing something a bit different. So out comes the Fade Prowler, it spots Chronicle back there, and up goes Scream here into this really weird angle, right? That you just don't normally see people in. And so even though they actually pop a KO ult here on the side of Mech and they stop them, Scream is still just going to cause chaos from this, elevated position. They tap the spike there with Dima, but look, Scream's still up there, and it's just still weird that he's up there, and he manages to win another fight as well, and then he goes and pops his ult as well, and even though he is going to die here, he does manage to trade the ult out with a last kill. Soulcast gets another one, and they manage to win the round, and they, do take advantage of some of their weird comps. Again, that's another player getting a 4K for them. As I said, it seems to happen quite often for Liquid, and they do manage to win quite a few rounds, with perhaps some of their weirder comps doing things that you aren't used to. And so quickly, let's take a look at Liquid's maps, their agents, and what their ecos are like. And so we'll start off with the maps, and this has taken all this data from back in Stage 2 as well, because I didn't think LCQ was a big enough sample size, really. So this is all the way back into Stage 2 and all of the group stage of that as well. And you can see here that on certain maps like Ascent, Breeze, Icebox going very well. Particularly Icebox, winning 8 of 9 games on a map is really quite impressive, to be honest, and it seems like that is definitely a home map for them, and it looks like they're just a very good Icebox team, and they use that Race Fade very well on that map. But you can see Bind is obviously a big sticking point, right? I wouldn't be shocked if they banned Bind and maybe played Pearl, because looking at the rest of it, the rest of it looks okay, right? Maybe Fracture isn't the best map in the world for them, so if they come up against a good Fracture team, that might not be amazing for them. But overall, I think this is a solid map pool. Clearly Bind is the big weakness. We'll have to see what happens with Pearl, but they also have some maps where they are very strong. And so now let's take a look at their agents as well, and this might be slightly outdated because this is from Stage 2, but outside of maybe Jet, Raze, Fade, and Sova, I don't think too much has changed overall. So, other than those agents where I think there has been a bit of a shift towards Raze and Fade and against Jet and Sova, I think everything else has pretty much stayed the same. And you can see, well, the controllers, they do play some Astra, they play some Brim, and they play some Omen. The reason that they're all below average is just because they played Icebox a lot, right? You saw that they played Icebox 9 times, so that's basically where, we're getting less than average for all of those controllers. But you can see that they do actually play all of them, perhaps having a bit of a preference for Omen over Astra overall. But, obviously they're playing a lot of Viper because they play a lot of Icebox. Cypher, they did play back in the day. We'll have to see, and Navera, can play Cypher, so if they did want to go back to Cypher on certain maps with the Chamber nerfs, we'll have to see. But obviously more recently, they have been playing a lot of Chamber, as you could see, and not that much Killjoy. And, we have a lot of Sage again because of the Icebox thing, but we actually got Phoenix on this list, right? I did not expect that. This is the first time we are seeing Phoenix on this list because they do play Phoenix on Ascent, and they actually won both times that they played Phoenix on Ascent, so, maybe there's something to it. They, are out on Jet, and you can see that they are heavy in on Raze, right? They only play Jet on Breeze, but, they play a lot of Raze on, most maps pretty much. So that is where they're in, and you can see they're in on Fade as well. Like a lot of teams now, more and more teams are, beginning to go towards Fade and Raze, and that obviously isn't a big surprise. That's kind of where the meta is, but they actually don't like KO. This was kind of an interesting one, right? And nothing has changed with KO. Well, actually, technically it has, but I think KO got buffed, if anything. So, they aren't in on KO that much, which I thought was kind of interesting. So we'll see, how that shakes out. But that was a big surprise to me. And you can see, obviously, Sova, they're not too much in on, but they're in on Sky a bit more than other teams as well. They did play Sky on Fracture for a time as well. And then when it comes to their pistol and eco rounds, you can see, like a lot of teams that will make it to these international tournaments, they tend to win, more than average than, most teams. And you can see that is true here for Liquid as well. So they're doing perfectly well in all 3 of these areas on their pistols, on their ecos, and against ecos as well. They're doing perfectly fine, kind of, where we would expect most teams in this tournament to be. And that is introducing Team Liquid. There is Scream, and if he plays like he did in that final against Mech for the EMEA LCQ, then a lot of teams are in a lot of trouble because he absolutely destroyed them. And so, yeah, Liquid, kind of like a dark horse, could go very far in this tournament, wouldn't shock me, but we'll have to see what happens.